Here to talk to us on this appointment, I'm joined by the South African Police Union spokesperson, Lesiba Thobakgale, Action Society spokesperson Ian Cameron, and policing expert David Bruce. Good evening to you all, and thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus. David, let me start with you. Seen as really a career policeman, many are raising questions now, for example, around his age, that he's of retirement age. Is that really a big issue on this appointment?
Well, to be quite honest, I'm not entirely sure how they're going to address the issue of his being close to retirement age, but presumably, as far as I know, the Police Act makes provision for a national commissioner to serve, for which he's appointed, rather than necessarily having to retire at the formal retirement age. So that shouldn't be an obstacle. I mean, I think generally he appears to be a strong candidate, and from what we know of who the candidates were, he quite possibly was the strongest candidate. He definitely seems to have quite a kind of diverse experience of the policing environment in South Africa, in roles which include operational types of roles and from the position of being part of senior management.
Yeah. Lesiba, looking at what guided the president to making this decision of putting someone in such an important role, I mean, do you believe there was transparency there? There was also emphasis on the independence of the candidate that was selected and put in this position?
Thanks, Butchabo. Remember, from our side, we've been making a call that the National Development Plan should be followed. And we wish to commend and thank the President that the NDP was followed. And it is our strong belief that the process was transparent, though we would have loved it to be public. But be as it may, we are also happy and we welcome the appointment of the National Commissioner, General Masemola. He has been in the police. He has been a Deputy National Commissioner for some time. The experience he has indeed speaks for itself, because he really operated within the peaceful environment under operational response services. That is where, if there are bigger events like your elections and any other events of national importance, they are planned there, they are executed, they are coordinated from there, and we've seen him indeed doing quite a great work. So for the fact that he's also a career police official, that is very, very important to us as an organization. We would have a problem if maybe somebody was then parachuted like it happened previously. But now what we have been praying for and hoping for indeed has happened. So we are indeed welcoming his appointment. We are saying that he's got our support as an organization, but he needs the support of everyone. He needs the support of his deputy national commissioners. He needs the support of the divisional commissioners. He needs the support of all the provincial commissioners, so that he would be able to execute his duties in accordance as the incoming national commissioner. But we really believe, Thabo, that the president has not made a mistake. He made the right choice in appointing him after the recommendations were done by the panel that was constituted by the president.
We'll get reaction from Ian Cameron also in a moment when we come back from the break. He, of course, in our previous conversation, had been calling for an independent panel to assist the president. Is he happy enough with who constituted that panel and the 24 candidates that were possibly shortlisted? President Cyril Ramaphosa making the announcement earlier. Lesiba Thobakgale, Ian Cameron, and David Bruce still with us tonight. Ian, in our previous conversation, of course, you had called for this independent panel to assist the president in making the selection. Well, we know now that 24 candidates were put up, but only 5 were interviewed. Talk to me about what your feeling is on that process, but also the structure of this interview. The president saying it was structured in such a way that it focused around financial management, program management, community confidence level, change management, and problem solving and integrity. Ian?
Yes, I think firstly, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
Hear me? Sorry about that. I think firstly, we're delighted about the fact that there was a panel. I think it's important to say that there was an external panel, but it is not right that it wasn't transparent. And I think we need to call a spade a shovel. I think the South African Police Service is in dire need of transparency, especially after the last few years. We haven't had a national commissioner in over a decade that wasn't connected to some kind of corruption, including the current Minister of Police. And to be blatantly honest, there were better candidates. I like General Masemola as a person. The few times that I've had discussions with him, met with him, etc., very, very nice guy. But the South African Police Service needs more than just a nice guy right now. There's a lot to be fixed. We are very, very far behind, and things aren't going well in the South African Police Service. So I think there were candidates like General Lucky Mkonazi, the current Gauteng Provincial Commissioner, etc. There's an entire list of members that I believe are operationally more capable and members that still have quite a bit of shelf life in terms of their time in the police. My worry in terms of leadership in the police is that if he were to retire, he needs to retire in February of 2023. He has less than a year, and so even if he does good work, the chances are pretty good that his leadership style would not be the same as his following commissioner, and therefore things would have to change again. We need to get a consistent kind of leadership in the South African Police Service. Currently, every 2 to 3 years, we're changing commissioners, and every time it turns things, it basically tips the apple cart, and it means that we have to start from scratch again. So we're worried about that. And we think we could have done better. But nevertheless, we welcome the fact that there at least was a panel, even though it wasn't transparent.
Yeah. David, let's talk about that. What do you think the president did an about turn here? Initially, he had indicated in Parliament that finding the top cop in the country would follow a similar process as that, for example, of the head of NPA back in 2018. Yes, there'll be a panel, there'll be a short list, but there'll be public interviews. This time around, there were no public interviews. We just heard today that the president will be presenting to us the new police commissioner. Do you think maybe he learned his lesson from the JSC process?
Well, I think, I'm not quite sure. Might have been a range of different reasons. One factor that I think might have just influenced things is that they had quite a short turnaround time. I think the kind of process that was involved in the appointment of Shamila Butwe as head of the NPA was, it took quite a bit more time, and they needed to, at least they felt that they needed to appoint, a person in a permanent position. And the kind of type of transparent process that you're talking about, I think it might have been, required a longer period of time.
David, unfortunately, having trouble there with that connection. We'll try and reconnect with you. Maybe the connection will be a little bit better there. Let's bring you in, Lesiba. There are indications that General Masemola could possibly have very close relations or friendship of some sort with Minister Thobakgale. Is that a good or bad thing if those allegations are true?
Butabo, our expectation from us as a union, whether there's a close relationship or not between himself and the minister. Remember, he's the Deputy National Commissioner, and in one way or another, he was responsible for operations and so on. So it is our strong belief that that relationship, it will not come or should not come closer to where it would really compromise his stance as a national commissioner. We have confidence in him. Remember, we know General Masemola. We worked with him. We know what type of a police official he is. So we have confidence in him that nothing would come and jeopardize the responsibilities and the duties that he has to execute as the national commissioner. Because remember, in terms of the law, there are powers and duties of the National Commissioner, and then there are powers and duties of the police minister. So if indeed the National Commissioner would ensure that there is no any form of political interference, if one has to zoom into what you just alleged, that maybe there are ties between themselves, we are saying that he has indeed to stand against any form of political interference. And if he can do that in any form of relationship or friendship that is there with the minister, he should not be able to come in between himself and the duties that he has to do. Yeah. Because what he has to do now, he needs to boost the morale of the police. And by boosting the morale of the police, he needs to ensure that there are promotions that are done. Our members have been frustrated for some years without promotions. He needs to ensure that the incorporation of our Public Service Act into the Police Act, as the agreement that was concluded in 2012, it is really realized. So by so doing, he will be having a good morale of the police service that is there, ready to give him a full support, because everybody will be understanding the core business to serve and to protect the inhabitants of the Republic and also their property. So we do not think, knowing who General Masemola is as an organization, we do not think that that should jeopardize his responsibilities, and we hope that it will not do that. He will have to stand against any form of political interference.
Ian, he comes in at a very critical time into the fray when we are dealing with, for example, a report that seems to indicate that there was absolute chaos in the intelligence of the country during the July unrest. In fact, some inquiries are still going on with the South African Human Rights Commission, where we expect to hear the president speak tomorrow as to exactly what did they knew, what did the police know, and so on and so forth. What are the immediate things you think coming into the fray at such a critical time that he would need to hit the ground running and address?
I think if he really wants to be successful, the first thing is you would need to do a skills audit of all senior police members as a start, including provincial and divisional commissioners, and obviously their deputies as well. I think there are too many political appointments, and many political appointments were promoted to higher ranks over the years, and the top structure of the South African Police Service is fat, it's too expensive, and it cannot be sustainable. So that's the first thing. The second part is we need to develop expert crime intelligence services again. And by this, I don't mean expert crime intelligence services that serves as an intel service for the ANC before a NASREC conference. I'm talking about professional policing, professional crime intelligence. The third one, we need reservists in the country. We need competent reservists, not ones that are promised jobs afterwards and whether there's some doubt about that. The fourth and also the last part from Action Society side is that we want an intensive national firearms audit to be done. I think there's too much speculation about the current state of affairs of South African Police Services firearms. There are too many in the hands of criminals, and we need to know exactly what is going on. And then lastly, we want to see specialist units being replaced. But I must add that all of these things can help, but I don't see it happening with any involvement from Bekitele and not with the amount of political interference we've seen up to now from the ANC. Masemola was a Deputy National Commissioner under Zuma. He's now one under Ramaphosa. He was one under Mbalula as Police Minister. He was one under Tele. Currently is obviously again, and I just don't see it changing without very clear reform and intervention in the South African Police Service. I think the service is doomed for the next 2 to 3 years, and I might sound over-pessimistic, but we've got a serious crisis when it comes to SAP's leadership. And I'm sure someone like Lesiba, we might differ on many things, but one big problem is that we need to support our ground-level members with strong leadership. And we can debate who that person is, but we need to build good young leaders to get up the ranks throughout the South African Police Service.